This jump rope tutorial is going to cover the backwards basic cross. We're gonna go over all the main tips, things to avoid, and an actual progression to help you learn the skill. If you're the kind of jumper that likes to be efficient with your skills and wants to continually level up over time, this is the tutorial for you. All right, let's get into it. Before doing the backwards basic cross, you should have a very strong forwards basic cross and ideally be able to do it on both sides. So the backwards basic cross, like all backwards skills, is extraordinarily strange when you're first learning it. It feels very weird. And the two biggest tips to keep in mind is to relax and to slow the rope down a lot more than you think is necessary. That way you have the time and you can really pay attention to what you're doing as you're learning the skill. You really wanna make sure you know which hand is gonna be on top as you're doing the backwards cross. So either your left hand on top or your right hand on top. The worst thing ever is to have your hands come together and smack each other and the rope smacks your face. After the rope passes under your feet, you wanna make sure that your arms cross at about stomach or belt line. And after you jump the cross, make sure that you bring your hands back down next to your hips. Now, as you're doing the cross, you need to make sure that you obviously cross far enough so you have a loop to jump through. If your elbows are touching, you're crossing too far. If your wrists are touching, then you might not be crossing far enough. Your handles do need to reach all the way across your body, but again, you wanna make sure that your forearms are overlapping. That way, you're doing the appropriate amount of crossing. Keep your body upright and tall and make sure that your feet stay together as you're working on this skill. The biggest thing to avoid with the backwards cross is bringing your hands up too high. You want to avoid having your hands come up super high near your shoulders when you're doing the backwards cross. You want to avoid collapsing or bending over excessively as you're doing this backwards cross, and you really want to make sure you don't stop using your wrists to turn. A lot of times people will lock down their arms and their wrists and try to get the rope around. You want to avoid doing that. Don't go really quickly as you're learning the skill. You might feel like you want to rush through it. Slow down, don't go quickly, and don't use really aggressive movements going into or coming out of the cross. And you definitely want to avoid having your hands crossing out way in front of you or being really lopsided with one hand much higher than the other, or a combination of both of these. You definitely want to avoid that. You also don't want your hands to go out super wide as you're uncrossing that skill. It can be very, very common to see people uncrossing going out really, really wide. You want to avoid that. And you also don't want to do speed step or running in place or any kind of footwork as you're learning this skill. Just keep it strictly to the backwards cross so you can understand what's going on and just avoid doing any kind of footwork, speed step, or running in place as you're learning the skill. Later on, once you get comfortable, you can definitely add it in to do whatever you want, but as you're learning, it's much easier to avoid extra footwork while you're practicing this skill. So let's talk about an actual progression to unlock the backwards cross. We're gonna start by putting the rope in front of us. Rope is right in front of our ankles. We'll rotate it backwards, and as we rotate it backwards, we're gonna immediately go into a backwards cross position and then finish in a backwards crossed heel catch. After this, we'll repeat pretty much the same thing, ropes in front. This time we're gonna go into that backwards cross position and jump the rope in a backwards cross and then finish in a backwards crossed heel catch again. So once you get comfortable with that, we'll do pretty much the same thing. We'll do a backwards single under, backwards cross, but this time we are gonna uncross and finish in a backwards open heel catch. And the final piece of this progression is to put it all together. We'll do a backwards single, backwards cross, another backwards single, and a backwards heel catch to finish it off. If this tutorial helped you with the backwards basic cross, send it off to a friend that you think might also enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because there are a lot more tutorials coming in the future. If you have any questions at all, just drop a comment down below or hit me up on Instagram at Nate_KG. All right, I will see you in the next jump rope tutorial.